those athletes, be it football, be it athletics, and not living it up to the sport ministry.
The president realizes that sports is a business, and for that reason, he also reduces the number of people who are jobless, because sports now is such a serious business, and for that reason, commercialization of sports is a major way of improving or increasing employment opportunities for the young people, and that is why the president has been very persistent in trying as much as possible to inspire more sports personalities to reduce the baggage of the people who are struggling to get job opportunities in the country among the young people.
Francis FM Mutegi, our correspondent from East Africa in Nairobi, Kenya.
Live every Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
All right, we try again on that chat about the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund coming up with the 6-month initiative aimed at tackling the challenges that child safety, children rather, who are in the digital space or involved in that space, and the challenges that they may have in terms of their safety. So we're joined now by Refilwe Mokoena, who is Child Safety and Protection Manager at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. Refilwe, I believe we can hear you now. How are you?
Yes, morning, Asanda. I'm well, thanks, and hope you are too. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. It's definitely a much better connection. Let's talk about the initiative that's been launched by the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund to tackle the issue of safety when it comes to children in the digital space.
Yes, so we've actually named this initiative Digital Safety and Child Participation in the Fourth Industrial Revolution because it's about exactly that. So on the one hand, ensuring children's safety and rights in the digital environment, and on the other hand, centering them as actual drivers and architects of digital policies and practices that affect them. I'm not sure if all of us are aware, but according to statistics released by the UN, over 95% of South African children will use the internet at least once within a year. So it means that childhood is increasingly happening online. There are opportunities to that, but there are also a lot of risks. And this initiative was framed in response to those risks, but also to support children to make the most of the digital world.
So what are some of those risks that children face when they are engaged in the digital spaces that they engage in? And how is this initiative aiming to tackle that?
Thank you. Thanks for that. So we find when we engage with children and also other researchers in the space that online commercial and sexual exploitation is quite rife. About 20% of the children who have reported on this say that they've received unwanted sexual material, images, videos from somebody online, including people they've never met. Grooming is another issue that they face, including exposure to adult or inappropriate content. And of course, even their data isn't safe because as you surf the internet, as you open different pages, videos, there are algorithms that actually keep track of what it is you seem to be interested in and then feed certain content to you. And not all of that content is appropriate for a child. And I think to finish off, we also have children who sometimes form close relationships with AI companions, ChatGPT, which I'm sure we've heard sometimes can actually lead them to self-harm if they get those kind of responses from AI companions. And of course, there's cyberbullying, which actually can happen amongst children themselves, where they can be both victims and perpetrators. So there's a whole host of risks that children are exposed to in the digital world. And our initiative really aims to bring together experts across the ecosystem, including the private and tech companies themselves, who are the ones who create these platforms, as well as parents, academics, civil society, and the children, to generate new knowledge and solutions to some of these risks.
The program or the project is for 6 months. And what are some of the events or activities that are planned, and why this particular time frame?
Sure. So most of the activities that we're engaged in is really convenings of the most critical stakeholders in the digital space. We host a monthly brown bag discussion, which is literally a gathering, a facilitated discussion that's open to the public. If you look on our website, you might see where those are happening, that brings together leading South African and international experts in the field to share on subtopics on digital safety. For example, we've looked at data and trends to say, what is the online behavior of a typical South African child today? And what does that mean for policies and for the policy frameworks that we operate within? Next week, we're going to be hosting another one, unpacking the basics. So even terminology, when you say cookies, when you say algorithms, what actually are those things? And how is it that our devices are actually designed to keep us and children engaged on them? We also do bigger convenings, for example, in partnership with Stellenbosch University. We recently hosted the second International Conference on Children's Rights that again focused exclusively on their digital rights and brought in actors like the MTN Group, Netflix, as well as leading civil society and international academics. And then finally, and what I think is actually the most critical, are our engagements with children. So we support children to start their own initiatives and campaigns just in their daily lives, in their schools, with their parents, because they're the ones who participate on platforms and they're the ones who witness and at times even participate in cyberbullying, catfishing. So they're the most powerful voice that other children will listen to about the dangers. And we're very excited for the final phase of the 6-month initiative, which will be our Digital Justice Summit for about 50 to 100 children, where they'll be able to engage with adults, research institutes like the Children's Institute at UCT, to co-write a policy brief that will have concrete recommendations for policy based on all the evidence we would have gathered over the past 6 months.
Are there certain online platforms that you found serve as the hotspots when it comes to digital child safety, or would you say the risks are across the board?
I think the risks are across the board. We have to acknowledge that there are platforms, companies such as Google that really have made a huge effort to embed safeguards into their services and into their platforms. But of course, children are mostly on social media, WhatsApp, TikTok, those are the most prevalent platforms they use. And even if it isn't so by design, those are some of the places where they can be the most exposed to harm.
You mentioned partnerships as well as part of the initiative with tech companies. How has the response been on that front, where the companies do want to make profit, but they have to tackle this issue? It's a real one of child safety online.
Yes, I think it's a mixed result. I think, as I said, and in any new initiative, there will always be those leaders, those companies, those individuals that say, this is actually something that's important and it's beyond just our business initiative. So you actually have tech companies who, in another context, would be competitors coming together to say, how do we address keeping children safe online so that we can still grow our business, but know that we're not harming one of our most important and vulnerable groups in the population. So I think there's a mixed response. One of the things that we're really hoping will come out of this series, as well as the Digital Justice Summit itself, is stronger legislation, that will more effectively mandate companies to embed those kind of safeguards, age restrictions, etc., in the products that they offer.
Refilwe, thanks again for your time and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Asanda. Same to you.
Thanks. Refilwe Mokoena is Child Safety and Protection Manager at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. They're launching a digital child safety campaign or initiative that's going to be spanning over 6 months, bringing awareness to the dangers that children being online face and, educating all of us, I guess, and reminding us to be mindful of all of that.
Yeah, social media, that whole world nowadays, you click on one thing and the way that they set up these things is you're actually not clicking through to that thing, you're clicking somewhere else, and before you know what's happening, you're in a whole world and a whole line just, yeah, it's a tough one, man.
And you get bombarded. I mean, even
Yeah.
as an adult, you just feel
Yeah.
like it's a lot. Yesterday, I was complaining to my daughter that I literally clicked on one food item online, and all I got was just these cooking things and videos, and I was like, but
exactly.
all right.
Anyway.
Sure that I haven't opened it. All right.
7 o'clock Central African time. A very good morning to you. If you've just joined us, you've missed out on the first hour of the program, but don't worry, we've still got so much to come on the program. We're broadcasting live from our studios in Johannesburg in South Africa at www.channelafrica.co.za. You can also catch us on your mobile app. Just look for SABC Plus, that's SABC Plus, and then look for Channel Africa, where we bring you the African perspective. A very good morning to you. I'm Peter Ndoro.
And I'm Asanda, Beda. And we're still to come on the show. We'll be looking at a conflict that's driving child hunger to record levels this year. Yesterday was World Food Day. So those conversations continue around that. And also across Africa's drylands, pastoralist communities are driving innovation and adaptation from women-led fishing projects in South Sudan to digital livestock tracking in Nigeria. So we'll find out about how that community is putting innovation as far as new technologies, as well as balancing those traditions with those new technologies. All that and more coming up. Let's get our news first. Here's Jolani Tulo Mwepe, and then Fikile Lingwati will follow with sports headlines.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Madagascar's new military ruler, Colonel Michael Randrianirina, says he's open to talks with the African Union after it suspended the country's membership following a coup to oust President Andry Rajoelina. Rajoelina, whom lawmakers impeached after he fled abroad during the weekend, has condemned the takeover. He has refused to step down despite youth-led Gen Z protests asking him to quit and widespread defections in the security forces. The union announced the suspension of the country from the bloc yesterday and has called for the restoration of civilian-led governance as well as elections. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has meanwhile condemned the unconstitutional change of government in Madagascar and called for the return to constitutional order and the rule of law. His spokesperson is Stephen Dujarric.
He takes note of the decision taken by the Peace and Security Committee of the African Union to immediately suspend the country from participation in all activities of the African Union, its organs and institutions, until constitutional order is restored in the country. The Secretary-General encourages all Malagasy stakeholders, including the youth, to work together to address the underlying causes of instability in Madagascar. He reiterates the availability of the United Nations to support these national efforts towards the attainment of that goal, in collaboration with the African Union and the Southern African Development Community and other international partners.
Former Congolese President Joseph Kabila has announced a movement to save his country after meeting with other opposition leaders in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. The meeting, held for 2 days, resolved to rally Congolese to oppose what he refers to as a dictatorship of President Felix Tshisekedi. Kabila was recently sentenced to death back home for war crimes and treason. He rejected the charges as arbitrary but did not appear in court to defend himself. Congolese government spokesperson Patrick Muyaya dismissed the meeting as a non-event and a gathering of fugitives and convicts. South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who has been on special leave since July, has told Parliament that the phasing out of the Political Killings Task Team, or PKTT, was approved before his term started. He was appearing before Parliament's ad hoc committee. The committee was established to investigate allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system made by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Ntantla Mkhwanazi in July. Mkhwanazi also alleged that Mchunu facilitated the disbandment of the PKTT because he is linked to individuals who are connected to crime syndicates. Mchunu told MPs that when he assumed office as police minister, the phasing out of the PKTT was already in the pipeline.
Implementation was slow. It had not reached the level where you could then do away or disband the National Political Killings Task Team. That's why they extended its life. And then the National Commissioner and the Minister signed that we extend the existence of the National Political Task Team, which will then extend or provide finance or funding.
And finally, the United Nations Security Council members France, the United States and the United Kingdom have begun work on a draft resolution that could see an international stabilization force deployed to the Gaza Strip. With a precarious ceasefire currently holding in Gaza, planning has begun for an international force to stabilize security in the war-ravaged enclave. Sharon Bryce-Pease reports.
France's foreign ministry indicated it was working closely with its partners and confirmed that such a force would require a UN mandate in order to provide a strong foundation in international law and ease efforts to get countries to contribute troops to such a mission. It's unclear the shape or form such a force would take and whether it would follow the normal peacekeeping mission framework or be something different, akin to an international gang suppression force that was recently authorized by the Council in relation to the crisis in Haiti. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer told Parliament earlier this week that such a force would take some time to establish and that the terms of reference were still being drawn up. Sherman Brycebees, SABC News, New York.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Mwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headlines, Springboks and All Blacks reignite traditional tours, and Lesotho Zumuhokare Golf Classic roars into life. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Start your day informed, inspired, and entertained. Asanda and Peter bring you Rise and Shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time.
Let's go to Cameroon now, where scores of people have been arrested as police used tear gas and water cannon to disperse youths on the rampage, protesting election trends and destroying public infrastructure in towns and villages across Cameroon. They say that figures at the election management body, Elecam, are different from the ones they counted in their polling stations. There's also a heavy military deployment in towns and villages considered opposition strongholds. Morki Kinzeka reports from Yaoundé in Cameroon.
Protests have erupted in several cities across Cameroon, including the economic hub Douala, Bafoussam, Chang, Bangante and Kuseri on the country's northern border with Chad. Local officials report that public buildings, vehicles and some homes were set on fire during the unrest. According to the government, local offices of Cameroon's electoral management body Elecam were among the targets of angry demonstrators, many of them young people. The protesters accused the government of manipulating vote counts in favor of incumbent President Paul Biya. Security forces fired tear gas and used water cannons to disperse crowds in several towns. Opposition leaders claimed that more than 150 of their supporters were arrested in Douala, Chang, Kuseri, Bangante and Bafoussam. Here is how some Cameroonians reacted on the streets of Yaoundé.
The idea of a popular counting of votes through social media, through what other means, is as a result of the people's lack of trust in the institutions that are responsible for counting and declaring the results of the elections. They don't have confidence in the counting and declaration process, and so they are fighting to protect their votes and protect their candidates because they believe that someone somewhere is trying to steal their victory.
We have social media results which are highly manipulative. We have IT results and images which are highly manipulative, each twisting the narrative to favor their own rhetoric and their own candidates. That is very misleading. Cameroonians should be aware and the international community should be aware. Let's wait for the results coming from the polling stations compiled by all the representatives of the various political parties and endorsed by them, also endorsed by and in the presence of the National Electoral Commission and in the presence of national and international observers.
The results are being tampered with. I am afraid that what started in Garwa yesterday like a joke may go nationwide, and Cameroon will be forced to face what it didn't prepare for. When you check at the atmosphere around here, you realize that every Cameroonian is eager for a change. They need a third republic. Cameroonians are already tired being ruled under the same regime for over 40 years with nothing to show for. They need someone new. So all Cameroonians need is a change.
The protest began after opposition candidate Issa Chiruma Bakari declared himself the winner of Cameroon's October 12 presidential election. Government authorities swiftly dismissed Chiruma's declaration, calling it illegal, ill-intended, and misleading. In a statement, Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson Rene Emmanuel Sadi said under the Constitutional Council has the authority to announce the final outcome, a process expected to conclude by October 26. As at now, Elekam says everything went on well. Eno Abrams Egbe is its chairman.
Despite some minor incidents, the presidential election of October 2025 went on smoothly across the country. The NIMI therefore seized this opportunity to congratulate the various stakeholders of the electoral process who have demonstrated political maturity and civic responsibility throughout the electoral cycle. The same congratulations go to the media and election observers.
Communications Minister Rene Emmanuel Sadi urged Cameroonians to guard against manipulation from people who want power at all costs. Officials say no fatalities have been reported so far, but tensions remain high nationwide, prompting a heavy security deployment. Opposition supporters insist that respecting the verdict of the ballot, not intimidation, will calm the streets. Meanwhile, international observers are calling for restraint from both sides, warning that the coming days will be crucial for maintaining peace and stability in Cameroon. Reporting for Channel Africa, this is Moki Kinzeka in Yaoundé, Cameroon.
Well, let's go now live to Cameroon and catch up with the reporter you heard in that story there, Moki Kinzeka, who's on the ground. Moki, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the program.
It's always a pleasure joining you from Yaoundé.
So, Moki, disturbing scenes that have been playing out and frustrations being expressed by the youth. What's the atmosphere like in Yaoundé and across Cameroon today from what you're hearing?
Well, it's a tense atmosphere in all over Cameroon, especially in towns like Bangante, Garoua, Kuseri, and the rest, where the youths are anxiously waiting, and there is a heavy deployment of troops all over. In fact, you cannot move without seeing troops. We were told last night that most of the troops were sent to Garoua. That is where Issa Chiruma Bakari lives. That is his hometown, because the youths are planning that if the elections are tampered with, then they will not accept this time around.
So, are more clashes expected during the course of today?
Well, after the clashes for the past 2 days, there is a little bit of calm now because people are advising that they should wait for the official proclamation of results before there are clashes. That maybe the government will be able to order that the verdict of the ballot be respected. But what is happening now, and what is happening new now, is that about 11 petitions have been deposited at the level of the Constitutional Council, asking for the total or partial cancellation of the election. So the Constitutional Council has latest the 26th of this month to rule on the petitions before proclaiming the results. So people are saying that since there are petitions of the cancellation of results, partially or totally, and since the ELECAM has not given the results, the crowd should wait, especially young people who are on strike. They should wait, they should hold on and see there may be some updates. They should not go to the streets now. Apparently, some people have been listening to, but there are still some anxious youth who think that Mr. Biya wants to be in power at all costs.
Tell me, the concerns that are being raised are that the figures and the tallies at the polling stations are not tying up with those that Elecam are publishing at head office. Is that what the situation is?
Yes, the issue is that the results collected from the polling stations are not the same results that Elecam seem to have. And you know, with ICTs, with telephones, with the internet, it is difficult to hide things this time around. So the opposition parties really trained Cameroonian youths to gather the results with their phones from the polling station. Not that in Cameroon, when they're counting the results in the evening, everybody is there. So it was possible to gather them with telephones. They even had pictures of people stuffing ballot boxes, really stuffing ballot boxes. You went to some areas where about 300 people registered to vote in a polling station, and results coming out are indicating that more than 700 people vote. You go to villages where they're not up to 2,000 people, results coming out are showing that about 6,000, 7,000 people voted. So those are the issues that the parties are using to ask for the total cancellation of the results. Others are asking for the partial cancellation, thinking that in some areas, at least, the results were respected, but in the majority of places, the ballot boxes were stuffed and there was mass rigging in favor of President Paul Biya.
What is Elecam saying in terms of these discrepancies? And the government, has that spoken at all?
The government spokesperson, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, who is also Minister of Communication, has spoken. He said people should be calm. He's begging Cameroonians to exercise some, what he calls patriotism. But people are reacting and saying that patriotism should not be synonymous to accepting wrong things that the government is doing. Also, Elecam, surprisingly, the chairperson of the Electoral Board of Elections Cameroon, Eno Abrams Egbe, surprisingly said the elections went on so well that the results are being assembled in Yaoundé. The National Commission for Vote Counting will be meeting to examine the results. So according to Elecam, everything went well in spite of all what people are complaining.
What sense do you get in terms of the feeling across the country? Are there Biya strongholds, for example, or is there a general feeling across Cameroon that change is required now?
There is a general feeling across Cameroon that change is required. I mean, if you were to ask, I'm sure from polls that were conducted before elections, about 80 to 90% of Cameroonians think there should be a change. But Biya has also his following. Mostly they are government ministers, they are senior state functionaries who support him. And also his region of origin, that is the south region of Cameroon, Biya has a lot of following. There, people say he actually won in his own region. But when you look at the votes from his own region, there are about 350,000 votes from the entire south region where Biya comes from. 350,000 from the over 8 million registered all over Cameroon is really comparatively very small. So people say even if you won all of the 350,000 votes, which is impossible because everybody will not be able to vote, he may not have won the elections in the country. So Biya has his supporters who are a minority who think that he should be there, but the majority of people from polls conducted by civil society groups think that it is time that there is a change in Cameroon. After 43 years that Biya has been in power, and his age also, 92, 93 years, is really very old. So somebody like him, people say, should be instead from behind advising the ministers, advising the government on things to do instead of playing that role, which is very difficult for an old man like him.
I suppose there are many in Cameroon watching events that have played out in Madagascar recently, that played out in countries like Mozambique and Kenya. Is there a fear that if the result doesn't go the way that they hope, that there will be a Gen Z revolution in Cameroon?
If you look at what happened when there were protests and the role some of the military officials played, is similar to what has happened out of here, where the military at times says let us listen to the crowd. Maybe that these are our brothers and sisters. Why should we go shooting, killing? So when you saw some of the police people deployed, you saw some of the soldiers deployed actually communicating with the people, telling them that, okay, it is not time to go destroying things. It is time to protest, but please don't destroy the roads, don't burn property. These things are owned by all of us Cameroonians. The next generation will need the roads. The next president needs the roads and the public edifices. So there is Cameroonians are watching what is happening and are even communicating, telling others that look at what is happening in Madagascar, look at what is happening in especially Senegal, where a young man Faye won the election. He's about 40. They say, okay, this is a country that transitions democratically, that we could also do it here. But if it fails, then maybe the soldiers will be needed. That is what some people think. And then they think that some of the troops are now being very comprehensive, being very understanding because of the way they communicate with the crowds, with the protesters now.
Moki, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for that update.
I'm grateful. Thanks very much.
That's one of our correspondents in Cameroon. He's in Yaoundé, the capital. Moki Kinzeka, giving us an update on the general sentiment across across Cameroon at the moment, and fears that the youth that are destroying infrastructure may continue if the current trends of vote tallies not tying up with those that were recorded at the polling stations continues. We'll keep on top of that story for you.
Siyabangena manje. Vito iJabulani Nkolele iMagoda. Jabulani is a young man from Giyani in Limpopo in South Africa. A very easy guy, taking things easy. To know me is to know that I love what I do, which I'm crazy about it. So when you hear me on radio, expect the best. Expect great music. Expect great content. Expect 180 minutes of nothing but fun. You'll find me on the morning reset, 3 to 6 a.m., Monday to Friday. Siyabangena baba. Mbuleke.
From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, rise and shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda on Channel Africa.
Let's shine the spotlight on this story now, where across Africa's drylands, pastoralist communities or farming communities are driving innovation and adaptation, from women-led fishing projects in South Sudan to digital livestock tracking in Nigeria. Today we speak with Carmen Jacques, who's lead researcher on livelihoods, markets and the economy at the Supporting Pastoralism and Agriculture in Recurrent and Protracted Crises, or SPARC, program. She also coordinates the Climate Change Working Group for the UN's International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists 2026. Carmen will share insights from the documentary called Charting New Futures in Africa's Drylands and discuss how pastoralists are shaping the future of these vital regions. She joins us now from the city of Hargeisa in Somaliland. Carmen, a very good morning to you, and thanks for making time to chat to us. Carmen, are you there?
Hi, good morning. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you.
Great, and we appreciate you making time. What does resilience look like for pastoralist communities in Africa's dry lands, these cattle or sheep farmers?
Great, thanks for that question. There's a big misconception that pastoralism is outdated. People moving with their animals with the seasons in search of water and grazing areas. The research program SPARC found that pastoralist communities are incredibly resilient because their ability to adapt from decades of ability to adapt to a changing context. Adapting may be choosing new ways of herding. It may be working with communities, adjacent communities, with them more closely. It may be actually changing their way of life, looking at what we saw in South Sudan, engaging in fishing, in northern Nigeria, where we see younger pastoralist generations actually moving into solar technologies. etc. Use of digital communications, cell phones, etc. So a lot of resilience, a lot of the resilience comes through adaptation.
So, as you say, the film and the documentary called Charting New Futures in Africa's Drylands shows women-led fishing in South Sudan and digital livestock tracking in Nigeria, with the example of cell phones that you make there as well as solar. Which of these innovations that the documentary touches on stand out the most?
What really stood out for me is that people are really using the resources that are available to them. Decades of marginalization and lack of investment has really kept people back. Where we see that, the ability to use cell phone networks, where that infrastructure is put in place, people quickly grab it up using technologies such as WhatsApp to share information. The mobile app AfriScout allows pastoralists to identify where there are grazing areas and move into those areas, which turns into better animals that can be sent to Africa's urban markets where our consumers are, whether that be beef, sheep, goats, camel, etc. Some of my favorite adaptations, or one that stuck out to me, is how quickly women are adapting, whether they're moving into agriculture, whether they're moving into business, but really women taking up new ways of earning income and food for their households.
With that adaptation, are you finding that pastoralists are also trying to strike a balance between those traditional farming methods and the new innovation and new technologies that they're moving towards? And is there still a place for those traditional technologies?
Yes, I believe where we see a great example is in weather forecasting. And so, for many of us, we're used to listening to the news in the morning on the radio or on the television, understanding what the weather is going to be today or the next day. Pastoralists have a more traditional way of forecasting weather, which is really looking at the resources, the state of the resources around them. Where we see a lot of progress is when those two are merged, where communities have a chance, they hear the modern forecast, but then they also look at the traditional and they debate. They decide, they say, well, the traditional forecast system is telling us this modern one is telling us this, something maybe the same or a little bit different, and they make a decision uh, by combining those two forecasts and really saying, this is what we believe the forecast, the weather will be looking like for the coming weeks and months. Therefore, we're going to move our animals in this type of a pattern. So I think that pastoralists, more than many groups, have really done a great job of integrating those traditional and still using the modern systems.
Right. Why is it important for policymakers to involve pastoralists when it comes to decision making and planning? It might seem it might be just for the pastoralist community's benefit, but policymakers could learn some things there as well.
Yes, very much. So keep in mind that livestock production out of pastoralist systems, out of the drylands of Africa, provide upwards of 50 to, in some cases, 80% of the meat that we eat in our cities and our large towns. In some cases, we're looking at 40% of the milk and 60%, 40 to 60% of the milk that we consume on a day-to-day basis is produced from pastoralists. Policymakers investing in, or governments investing in pastoralism, not telling people exactly what to do, but giving them the infrastructure and the resources necessary so that they can adapt and modernize livestock keeping while still maintaining the traditional aspects that are still beneficial. And so, we've seen decades of marginalization. To me, it's less about giving people a handout, but rather seeing this as an investment opportunity. But we really do need some of that basic infrastructure, schools, roads, cellular technology, etc.
What is the key message that you want viewers to take from this documentary, and where can it be accessed?
Great. So the documentary can be found on YouTube. It's called Charting New Futures, available on the Spark Knowledge, and that's Spark with a C, Spark Knowledge YouTube site. What I want people to take away is that pastoralists are not looking for a handout. They're not looking to be saved, but they're looking for people to invest in, both public investments in that infrastructure, but also private investment, getting more investment into their livestock businesses themselves, but also other upcoming businesses that are appropriate for those drylands.
Carmen, thank you so much for your time again, and have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Carmen Jacques is a lead researcher on livelihoods, markets, and the economy at the SPARK program, spelled with a C in the end instead of a K. She was joining us from the city of Hargeisa, that's in Somaliland, live. That documentary titled Charting New Futures in Africa's Drylands. And that's one of the topics that she was discussing, and it can be found on the SPARK Knowledge page on YouTube, yes, as well as their website. It's time for our news headlines now, 7:30 Central African time it is. Good morning, Jolani.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Making headlines. Madagascar's new military leader is to be sworn in later today. Former Congolese President Joseph Kabila has announced a movement to save his country after a meeting with other opposition leaders in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. And finally, US President Donald Trump says a second summit with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin is on the cards after what he described as a very productive phone call on the war in Ukraine. I will have details on these and other stories at 8 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
It's time for your sports. Let's say good morning once again to Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We kick off with rugby news. Rugby's greatest rivalry, an alternating quadrennial tour between South Africa and New Zealand, has been confirmed, marking a defining new chapter for the intense rivalry between the sport's most successful and storied nations. In the tour's maiden year, South Africa will host New Zealand in August and September 2026. The All Blacks kick off the tour against the Stormers in Cape Town on the 7th of August and take on the Sharks, Bulls and Lions to complement a 4-test series against the Springboks. Ellis Park in Johannesburg, DHL Stadium in Cape Town and FNB Stadium in Johannesburg are confirmed as South African test venues, preceding a landmark 4th test hosted at a neutral international venue. Details of the 4th test will be confirmed in the coming months. By reigniting rugby's traditional roots, the tour will renew the legacy of a rivalry known for its fierce competition and societal significance across the last century. Some more rugby news. South Africa's Free State province comes alive once again as the 5th annual Toyota Challenge kicks off this evening in Bloemfontein. The Toyota Cheetahs face Georgia's Black Lion in what promises to be an exciting test of power and preparation. Both teams use the Toyota Challenge as a build-up to the upcoming European Professional Club Rugby Tournament, the EPCR. For the Cheetahs, this is more than just a friendly match. It is a crucial test of readiness. Head coach Franz Steyn says there is still work to be done before the team hits top form.
Yeah, I think we're not looking too far ahead. I know we've got the EPCR coming up, but there's little things we need to fix as a team and to be better at. So hopefully we can fix some of the small things we didn't do as well and get some emphasis on small areas of our game and improve every week.
Across the field for Georgia's Black Lion, this tournament is also proving ground. Their first big outing in South Africa before their European season kicks off. Black Lion coach Richard Cockerill says the invitation marks an important milestone for Georgian rugby.
Yeah, very happy to be here. Really honoured to get invited to Toyota Challenge. First time for the Black Lions to be here against a good Cheetahs team. It'll give us great experience. We've got a young side. Some of our players, this will be the hardest level they've ever played. So good to get ourselves out of Georgia and to play some proper opposition and to learn from the experience.
In cricket news, South African women's cricket team next match in the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup is against co-host Sri Lanka in Colombo today. And with these three successive wins under their belts, the Proteas campaign is well on track for the berth in the semi-final. And according to Nkululeko Mlaba, they will stick to their strategy.
Each and every team is very hard to play against because we played against Sri Lanka in a tri-series and also played against them at home, and they beat us in a few games, and yeah, they definitely have a good team. Their spinners, they're very good, and Atapatu herself, she's also gone for the team. So as a team, we don't undermine any team, we just play our own game and try our best to win the game.
And finally, with golf news, Lesotho's biggest international golfing event, the Mohokare Golf Classic, is set to take center stage this weekend. Starting today and running through Saturday, the Nedbank Lesotho-sponsored tournament will be held simultaneously at Maseru Golf Course in Lesotho and Lady Brand Golf Course in South Africa. The event will conclude with prize-giving ceremony at Avani Lesotho Hotel. Established in 2003, this annual tournament is widely regarded as the premier golf event in the country and remains unmatched in promoting tourism. It consistently attracts participants from neighboring countries including South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Eswatini, Mozambique, and even beyond Africa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Ngwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Let the good times roll. From the 10th of October, make a note. Channel Africa is stepping into a brand new era with the launch of our upgraded website and app. It's easy, fresh, and always on your fingertips. Wherever you are in the world, Africa's voice is just a click away. The future of Channel Africa goes live from the 10th of October. Don't miss the moments.
Let's now catch up with the world of business as we say good morning to Buntle Headbush. She has our economics news details.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Asanda. Good morning. In our top business story at this hour, Egypt has raised prices on a wide range of fuel products today, marking the second increase this year. The country's petroleum ministry says this is in line with government policies to reduce subsidies and ease a budget deficit. The increases of 10.5% to 12.9% on a wide range of petroleum products follows a hike of nearly 15% in April. The ministry says government will freeze domestic fuel prices for at least a year after today's rise, citing local, regional and global developments. International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva says that she will send an IMF team to Senegal to discuss the new loan program for the West African country now that a debt misreporting problem has been resolved. Chandoko Ligege has more.
After taking power last year, Senegal's new government said the previous administration of Macky Sall had significantly underrepresented its levels of debt, sparking an International Monetary Fund investigation which concluded the authorities had widely misrepresented its 2023 budget deficit. Georgieva told a news conference that she met with Senegalese authorities at the IMF and World Bank annual meetings. Georgieva says the meetings discuss what objectives of the program could be and how to go about it.
The South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, NECSA, has posted another year of profitability, recording a net profit after tax of $7 million for the year ended 31st March 2025. NECSA CEO Loyiso Tyabashe says the results reflect the commitment of employees and effective oversight from the shareholder ministry, among other bodies. The company, responsible for running a nuclear reactor for isotope production purposes, also achieved a clean audit opinion. Tyabashe elaborates.
We want to look into a pilot reactor on our site wherein we could produce heat and even electricity, and which we could deploy, and maybe the likes of Eskom or any other company could buy and adopt in repurposing their coal plants into the future.
The Sixth Payments Association of South Africa International Payment Conference has placed a spotlight on the urgent need to leverage technology to reduce South Africa's reliance on cash and accelerate financial inclusion. The conference, underway in Johannesburg, comes amid major pending changes to the national payment system, recently announced by the South African Reserve Bank. Professor Adrian Seville from the Gordon Institute of Business Science in South Africa formed part of the panelists.
The importance of financial literacy. All well and good to talk about bank accounts, but if people are financially illiterate but have bank accounts, that can hardly be, what financial inclusion is about. And then in a country that can build an increasingly elevated savings platform.
The price of gold has risen to a new high above $4,300 an ounce this morning to $4,364 an ounce, up $131 from yesterday morning's price of $4,233 per ounce. Analysts say the metal is poised for its best week in 5 years as signs of weakness in U.S. regional banks, global trade frictions, and expectations of more rate cuts sent investors flocking to the safe haven. They've hedged their bets on the yellow metal reaching the $5,000 mark soon, with expectations that a short-term correction is likely to shake out weaker hands and attract a fresh dip of buyers. And now moving to the markets, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,465 naira this morning. In Botswana, it's trading at 13 pula 25. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 25. And in Zambia, it's at 22 kwacha 60. Moving to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 44. In Russia, it's trading at 79 rubles 58. India, 87 rupees 89. In China, it's at 7 yuan 12. And in South Africa, it's at 17 rand 32 cents this morning. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,364, platinum $1,718 per ounce. It's also higher this morning, while Brent crude oil is at $60.88 a barrel. And those are your business news. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Buntle Headbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Bringing you the energy, news, and good vibes to kickstart your day. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Malawi's President Peter Mutharika has asked his Zambian counterpart Hakainde Hichilema for 200,000 metric tons of maize to fill a food deficit during a lean period. Hichilema confirmed this when he opened the 2025 Southern Province Investment and Trade Exposition this week, saying that his country has surplus maize. Mutharika's spokesperson, Shadrach Namalomba, confirmed that the president talked to his Zambian counterpart over the phone. Social campaigner Jan Kasunda has since welcomed the move, saying that many Malawians need urgent food aid. George Mohango reports from Blantyre.
Malawi's decision to ask Zambia for maize comes in the wake of a report done by the Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee, MVAC, which established that more than 4 million people need food assistance. This week, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, Joseph Manaveka, also said government estimates that the country needs an additional 200,000 metric tons of maize. He said the affected people will not be able to meet their annual food requirement between this month and March next year, representing 22% of the national population. Social campaigner Jan Kasunda has backed government's decision to import maize. He, however, said the 200,000 metric tons may not be enough, as such government should continue negotiating with local farmers on prices so that the grain can be bought locally in the near future.
The government's decision to buy maize from Zambia is correct because it is meant to serve the 4 million Malawians that are feared to face hunger in the coming months. However, what I don't agree with is the decision to buy the maize from elsewhere. First of all, we have farmers that worked really hard in their fields to produce maize. We need to empower our farmers. The government should have first prioritized to buy the maize from local farmers. This would in a great way support our farmers, give them the urge to continue doing their farming business.
Last month, the government-owned Agricultural Development and Marketing Corporation (ADMAC) also announced plans to import 200,000 metric tons of maize to ensure consistent availability of the commodity during the lean season. ADMAC's spokesperson Teresa Chapulapula said the decision to import was reached after a careful assessment of stock levels, market trends, flow of maize on the market and depots from local suppliers and the projected impact on household food security.
At ADMAC Limited, we import 200,000 metric tons of maize into the country. While we are still purchasing maize from the local market, our ongoing assessment based on current stock levels, market trends, the flow of maize from local suppliers to our depots and markets, and the projected impact on household food security has shown the need for imports.
About 6 million people faced hunger in the 2024 to 2025 updated assessment, while 4 million people were hungry in the 2023 to 2024 consumption year. However, this year's figure is higher than that of the 2022 to 2023 and 2021 to 2022 consumption years, when 3 million people and 1 million people were hungry respectively. Blantyre-based resident Thomas Banda is happy that government has zeroed in.
This is the good development because this signals the end or the reduction of food shortage situation in Malawi, because as you understand, here in Malawi, we are currently facing food shortages because of some climatic change and also flooding and also El Nino, which hit the country over the past few years. So now, in addition to the food shortage situation, the maize which is available on the market has increased, so that most of us, we can't afford to buy. The prices are high at unaffordable prices, which we cannot able to buy. So I wish this maize could have arrived in the country sooner than later, because otherwise we will die of hunger.
In June this year, the World Food Programme projected Malawi's maize deficit at 1.2 million metric tons, or 33% of harvest. The national annual requirement is 3.7 million metric tons. Malawi had projected a maize deficit of 537,380 metric tons in the 2024 to 2025 growing season, with Parliament approving 98.5 billion in the 2025 to 2026 national budget. George Muhango, Channel Africa News, Blantyre.
Zambia has reached bilateral debt restructuring agreements with some of its Chinese creditors, including the Export-Import Bank of China. Finance Minister Situmbeko Musokotwane says the deals represent a major milestone in the country's long and complex journey to reorganize its debt, a process that began after Zambia became Africa's first sovereign defaulter in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. Channel Africa's economics reporter Innocent Simosa has more.
The Southern African nation owes more than $4 billion to China Exim, its single biggest creditor. Economist Trevor Hambai shares the significance of this latest agreement with Chinese lenders in easing Zambia's overall debt burden.
So it must be realized that Zambia is currently in the process of having to be able to undertake a debt restructuring. That debt restructuring has basically had three components, which is the official creditors, the bondholders, and the private creditors. This last component of the debt restructuring is where the private creditors are. And the last one that they're having to be able to sign the agreements now is with the private creditors. It was one of the most difficult ones to be able to restructure because the creditors are private. And this is significant in Zambia actually completing its debt restructuring as an initial stage. Having done the debt restructuring is that this is what is going to create the fiscal space for the country, bring its debt to sustainable levels, and of course, then open up the window for private investors.
Hambai says the debt restructuring would provide Zambia with fiscal relief, enabling the government to prioritize investment in infrastructure, healthcare, education, and other critical sectors.
Firstly, is that the restructuring for the country is that it gets the country out of the selected default rating that it had on the international market. The rating now has moved to relatively triple C minus, and this is positive in getting to a point where that credit rating creates international confidence.
But what lessons can other African countries facing debt challenges draw from Zambia's approach to managing its obligation?
And the lessons that we can all learn from the African continent, firstly, is that we need to be able to manage our debt situation a lot better. This cyclical challenge where countries fall back into debt and then they're asking for forgiveness is an issue of poor fiscal management, and this must be addressed. But secondly, in terms of the debt restructuring that Zambia has undergone, firstly, is that the process has taken more than 4 years to be able to complete. And this is a very difficult issue in terms of having to be able to resolve country's debt situation. I think maybe there are lessons to be learned there around the IMF common framework that they're using to be able to undertake the debt restructuring.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Samos in Johannesburg.
Hundreds of Botswana nationals hoping to work in the United Kingdom now face uncertainty after the British government imposed a visa requirement on the Southern African nation. Recent years have seen a surge of Botswana moving to the UK, driven by economic challenges at home, including weak diamond sales. In response, London has tightened entry rules to curb the flow of migrants. Britain's High Commissioner to Botswana, Giles Ettenkamp, confirmed the change yesterday. Channel Africa's Shingai Madondo reports from Gaborone.
In his announcement, the British High Commissioner to Botswana, Giles Ettenkamp, said the visa restrictions are a firm response to misuse of the United Kingdom or UK's immigration system by Botswana citizens. According to Ettenkamp, there has been a noticeable high number of Botswana nationals claiming asylum upon arrival or after entry into the United Kingdom since 2022.
Today, 14 October, we are introducing an important change for Botswana nationals travelling to the United Kingdom. With immediate effect, the UK has taken the difficult decision to introduce visas for Botswana nationals travelling to the UK. This is due to a rise in asylum claims and is based solely on migration and border security reasons. We understand this will be disappointing and want to stress that this does not reflect our strong and valued partnership with Botswana. The UK continues to warmly welcome genuine visitors, including those coming to study or to work. That commitment remains unchanged.
This development echoes a familiar pattern for Southern African travellers, immediately bringing back memories of the major visa changes implemented against South Africa a few years ago and the neighboring Zimbabwe at the turn of the millennium. With unemployment rate estimated at 27.6% overall and hovering around 38.2% amongst the young generation of the Southern African country, 35-year-old Evelyn Muzutata, a resident of Francistown, Botswana's second largest city, described the decision taken by the British government as devastating.
For us, it's bad. We were looking at opportunities out there. Most of young people were looking forward to go there, look for opportunities, and so it's bad for us now. It means that 20,000 has to be there in your account. But the fact remains, where are you going to get that 20? Take somebody who's working there as a maid. The person is getting paid more than an officer this side. Everyone wants to live. We are all living for greener pastures.
Botswana's Minister of International Relations, Dr. Penyo Butali, was not immediately available to give the government's reaction to the stance taken by Britain on Botswana. However, a statement released by his ministry suggested that the President Duma Boko administration will engage its Commonwealth partner through diplomatic channels with a view of exploring durable solutions that are mutually beneficial for both countries and their citizens. UK Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper stated that the action was necessary to disrupt and deter the abuse of the British immigration system. However, for those planning legitimate trips, the new barrier includes a significant financial outlay, which is a 6-month multiple entry visa currently costs £127, an equivalent of about 2,943 rands. Reporting for Channel Africa from Gaborone here in Botswana, this is Ashingra Badondo.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu masuala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli, hili jukwaa kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu, ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako na kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, rise and shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda on Channel Africa.
As the world commemorated World Food Day yesterday, a non-governmental organization in South Africa, Union Against Hunger, supported by numerous organizations, picketed at the division of the billion US dollar retail giant ShopRite in Centurion in the Gauteng province of South Africa. The NGO demanded, among others, that the retailer lower their food prices for the sake of the survival of the poor. Sisi Sekhalo attended the picketing and has more on the story.
Scores of people gathered and picketed outside one of the divisions of retail giant ShopRite in Centurion in the Gauteng province of South Africa. The Union Against Hunger, supported by other organizations, says they are tired of the situation in South Africa where the majority of people suffer from hunger. They say their mission is to ensure that the constitutional right of citizens to have food is kept. National organizer Esther Padi emphasized that sometimes people think it is their fault that they cannot afford 3 meals a day while retailers pocket millions.
So that is one of the demands of the Union Against Hunger, that we are asking for shop prices to be dropped because food is very expensive and it's unnecessary. This country, we don't have a problem in terms of food supply. We just have greedy retailers who are making millions. 20 million a day for profit at ShopRite is very unfair in a space where you are living with communities with a very high rate of unemployment. So our call is to say let the prices drop, and we're not saying drop everything, we're just asking for 10 essential foods for people to afford to buy maize meal, to afford to buy milk and eggs, because those are nutritional food. And we're not just asking for food prices to be dropped, but we are also lobbying and mobilizing around the issue of nutritious food, because we have 11,000 children every year who die because of malnutrition.
The General Industries Workers Union of South Africa, GIUSA, was one of those who supported the picket. They highlighted that hunger affects millions who are unemployed, but hits even harder to those that are employed. President of the union, Mametlo Sibey, expressed that many of the workers are on minimum wage or below and simply cannot afford the cost of living, let alone food.
Many workers are literally going to sleep
with 3 meals. Many of them, if they're lucky, 1, 2 meal at most, but they can't afford 3 meals, right? And I think the cost of grocery driven upward into astronomical, unaffordable levels by retail monopolies like, ShopRite and others, who are paying their CEOs staggering tens of millions of rent, in salaries and, of course, all sorts of benefits, are the ones that are driving the cost of food beyond this level of unaffordability at the same time as our people are hungry. And we're here to protest that. We're here to say that is absolutely unacceptable, unsustainable, and we can't allow it to go on unchallenged.
Meanwhile, the retailer ShopRite sent a representative from the company to come and accept the memorandum from the organizations. For Channel Africa, I'm Sisi Sekhalo in Pretoria, South Africa.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
Eight o'clock Central African time it is. That means the last hour of Rise and Shine. And we are coming to you live from our Johannesburg studios. That's in South Africa as Channel Africa. Find us on www.channelafrica.co.za. You can find us live streaming on YouTube at Channel Africa 1 is the handle. That also goes across our social media platforms. And then the SABC Plus app via mobile is also where you can connect with us. My name is Asanda Beda.
And I'm Peter Ndoro. And if you see Asanda wearing very cool shades today.
Oh, yes.
It's Shades Day, isn't it? Just remind us what it is and why it's so
Shades Day,
important.
it's a South African, it's a national initiative. It's a campaign that brings awareness to those who are living with vision impairment. And it's launched by the South African Guide Dogs Association. Yeah. And it's not, of course, it's a national campaign, but it also shines the spotlight for those 2 billion people globally who live with visual impairments.
So wear your shades today. So what are we looking at in the next 30 minutes? Let me tell you. Joyce Banda, former Malawi president, we believe might be going to Madagascar, sent by SADC to try and on a fact-finding mission, actually, to try and see what the underlying issues are at the moment in the country. You know that a coup has taken place and the president, Rajoelina, has gone and the army commander has taken his place. And also sad news coming out of Malawi at the viewing of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who died in India. Police had to open tear gas and there could have been as many as 4 casualties. We'll get on top of those stories after the news with Jwalane Tulongwebe and the sports headlines with Figile Lingwati.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Madagascar's new military leader is to be sworn in later today. Colonel Michael Randrianirina takes over from President Andry Rajoelina, who was ousted and impeached following weeks of deadly protests which prompted military intervention. Joeli Khodi has the story.
Protesters had hoped that President Rajoelina would simply resign and pave the way for a smooth democratic transition. Instead, he clung to power, dissolving his government and holding a series of dialogues with different groups of people, efforts that weren't enough to appease the protester. Now the country enters a transition period which is full of political obstacles and legal uncertainty. But the new military leader has pledged to hand over power to a civilian government within 2 years.
US President Donald Trump says a second summit with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin is on the cards after what he described as a very productive phone call on the war in Ukraine. The phone call will be followed by a meeting next week between the two countries' foreign ministers. And if that goes well, a face-to-face meeting between the two leaders will follow later. The BBC's Sarah Smith has the details.
This proposed summit is the result of a 2.5-hour phone call between Presidents Trump and Putin yesterday, a call held at Russia's request. Mr. Trump has been considering selling powerful long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, which could hit targets deeper inside Russia. something that was discussed on that call with Mr. Putin. President Zelensky will ask Mr. Trump to sell him the Tomahawk weapons when they meet in the White House later today. He may find that, once again, Donald Trump has been persuaded by Vladimir Putin to back off his threats to get tough with Russia and instead give the Russian leader more time to talk about ending the war.
South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who has been on special leave since July, has told Parliament that the phasing out of the Political Killings Task Team, or PKTT, was approved before his term started. He is appearing before Parliament's ad hoc committee. The committee was established to investigate allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system made by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in July. Mkhwanazi also alleged that Mchunu facilitated the disbandment of the PKTT because he is linked to individuals who are connected to crime syndicates. Mchunu told MPs that when he assumed office as police minister, the phasing out of the PKTT was already in the pipeline.
Implementation was slow. It had not reached the level where you could then do away or disband the National Political Killings Task Team. That's why they extended its life. And then the National Commissioner and the Minister signed that we extend the existence of the National Political Task Team, which will then extend or provide finance or funding.
Meanwhile, residents in Siweding village near Mahikeng in the Northwest Province have expressed their unhappiness about operation conducted by police at a business premises owned by Brown Mokhotsi. This comes after police raided the property last night. Mokhotsi has been in the spotlight following the revelation by KZN Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that he has a close relationship with Mchunu, who is currently on special leave. It is alleged that police have confiscated cell phones belonging to people found on the premises. These residents are unhappy about what transpired.
I'm very disappointed with what has happened in the with SAPS, because I don't think that coming with more than 20 cars this side is helpful, looking for one person. I believe that in other neighboring villages, there's someone who needs the police car that cannot get that access, but they're coming with 30 cars to fetch only one person.
They must follow all the proper channels, and then because Brown Mokhotsi has been engaging with SABC, they must engage. It's not like it's somebody who is hiding or somebody who is a fugitive. Brown Mokhotsi is around.
Today is World Trauma Day, and experts are highlighting the importance of nutrition in the recovery of physical injuries experienced. World Trauma Day is dedicated to raising awareness about the impact of mainly physical trauma and the importance of effective and timely intervention. Registered dietitian Omi Naidu says proper nutrition together with medical care is critical in helping the body get back to its former self.
When we're looking at it, it's essentially physical trauma. So you could have a traumatic event like an accident or an injury or a fall, and very often the recovery from that in terms of your bones, your muscle and your functionality is linked or requires good nutrition. So nutrition needs to definitely then fuel that recovery.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Waipe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In a sports headline, FIFA says over 1 million tickets have been sold for 2026 World Cup in America. And Lesotho's Mohogare Golf Classic roars into life. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa. Ahoy, matey.
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, why are you here?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or On X at Channel Africa One. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa One. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective. From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, rise and shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda on Channel Africa.
Preparations are being completed for the state funeral of the Kenyan opposition politician and the country's former Prime Minister Raila Odinga today. The funeral will be held at the National Stadium in Nairobi, with tens of thousands of mourners expected. At least 3 people were killed, sadly, in chaotic scenes yesterday at another stadium where his body was lying in state. For an update, we're now joined by our correspondent in Kenya, Alex Kaire. Alex, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Very sad news coming out of Kenya yesterday that something as solemn as mourning led to casualties. Tell us what happened and how many people do we know have died?
Thank you very much, Peter. Currently, the number has since been revised to 4 people confirmed dead, and the number is likely to rise the death toll, that is, and we are also waiting for confirmation on really what happened because that incident was a culmination of chaotic arrival of the body from the airport all the way to where that viewing was supposed to take place by the members of the public. Members of the public who had jammed the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport took over nearly every sector of the airport and disrupted operations. And even the president who had arrived to receive the body formally was forced to leave together with his deputy and other opposition leaders in the government and also cabinet secretaries. So it was a very, very chaotic thing. And I remember the crowds that had gone to receive the body, jamming the streets, causing traffic jams, and disrupting every aspect of life in the city. And this forced the government to change plans because initially the body was supposed to be viewed at parliament buildings. And due to the huge number of people who were there who were threatening to crash into the parliament and breach it, the whole thing was moved to another stadium in the outskirts of the city called the Moi Sports Center Kasarani. And still there, the crowds became so uncontrollable, and this actually forced the security forces present to shoot in the air, shoot tear gas canisters and disperse them so that the body could actually be prepared for viewing because it was still in the body bag. It was very, very morbid.
It sounds as if the authorities should have anticipated the crowds and the numbers, and they didn't prepare themselves properly for this.
It was anticipated. Everybody knew that things could be chaotic because some people have been saying that was the life of Raila Odinga and his supporters. He had a very huge influence on them, and the support was organic, even still now. And the failure was also steeped in the fact that Raila Odinga himself had indicated in his will that he should be buried 72 hours after his death. Usually in his community, the mourning period is usually between 1 to 2 weeks. This now will have allowed them to plan elaborately for the same. But now, to meet his preferences in the will, these plans had to be done in a haphazard manner, and they definitely failed. Clearly, they failed to factor in these kind of issues. Calling people to receive the body at the airport was one of the biggest failures that have been singled out because they knew very well that Raila Odinga supporters can and usually are a bit uncontrollable.
So the state funeral is today. Tell us typically what happens at a state funeral in Kenya. What are we likely to see?
So far, the body of Raila Odinga was sneaked into parliament this morning. I think this is drawn from lessons that were witnessed yesterday, from what happened yesterday. So the body was supposed to be taken from the Lee Funeral Home where it has been lying since last evening onto another stadium that was set aside for that exercise. But since it was not taken to Parliament as it is supposed to be for all national figures, it was now taken to the board to Parliament buildings this morning as early as 6:30, and they chose to stay ahead of the crowds. So this is where now the dignitaries who are visiting, local and everybody else, heads of state, including I've seen President Yoweri Museveni there already, are supposed to view the body, and also members of the public will also be allowed to do the same before the body is now taken to the Nyayo Stadium where the funeral service is supposed to be held, and there he is supposed to get military honors. After this event of public viewing, the military is supposed to take over and lead the service together with the Anglican Church, which Raila Odinga was a faithful of. So from there now, there will be speeches by local leaders, by foreign leaders, and family members. Now, after this is done, the military is supposed to hand over now the whole program to the family, from where the body is supposed to go to his Nairobi home in Karen, where he's supposed to lay instead. That's a traditional affair, which is very much amongst the Luo community where Raila Odinga happened to be from. And then tomorrow morning, the body is supposed to be flown to Western Kenya, Kisumu, and then later on driven by road to Bondo in Siaya County, where he's supposed to be laid to rest on Sunday. So today's event is basically a national thing that is supposed to be held, a ceremony that is supposed to be led by the military and members of the National Assembly, where Raila Odinga served for years before becoming Prime Minister after they contested the 2007 general election. So it's just a government program. Then after that, they'll hand over the body now to the family, which is supposed to be now a family affair and community affair from today evening up to Sunday when he's laid to rest.
Alex, thanks very much indeed for that update. We'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you. That's Alex Chiari, who's our correspondent in Nairobi, as ahead of Raila Odinga's state funeral later today.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 Central African Time on Channel Africa. Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K,
or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Tamo ndi
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. Enjoy the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Staying with the passing of Raila Odinga, we are now joined by Kenyan social and community activist who worked with the late Prime Minister of Kenya, Dr. Kennedy Odede. Dr. Odede, good morning, and how are you feeling this morning with all the condolences that are pouring into the country, of course, and your own mourning?
Thank you so much. It's a dark moment for the country. He was a great man that, I grew up in Kibera. When I first started my work in the community, I was denied a visa to go to study in America. It was the Prime Minister who was able to help me get my visa and told me to go to study and come back to uplift the community from poverty. So he was a special man to me, like a father, and seeing him as a kid, growing up in the slum, and really fought for the rights, for many people. So in Kibera here, where we started, it's really tough. People are really so sad, and it's the entire country. It is a dark, dark moment for the country.
As you say, in that background of Kibera and how you launched your own career working into the space of politics, what else can you tell us in terms of now when you returned from your studies and worked with him? You say he was like a father figure to you.
Yes, it was, and he really loved our community, Kibera, where I came from. And when I came back, the point is that it really helped me a lot, even with the government, making sure that the work in the community are able to be done. He also believed in education. Together, we really gave a lot of scholarships to young people to go and study. So, as we are crying at the same time, we also have to celebrate, what he has done for the country. So it's a mix, At the same time, we didn't expect him to go. It was so quick, right? It was too fast. We didn't expect that. It was like a shock. We didn't believe it. Even right now, it's still hard to know that Odinga is gone. It's very, 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 very sad, and we can't even think about it. And to be honest with you, in Kenyan politics, we remember without Odinga, we don't know politics. We don't know what's going to happen, right? He was the man that everybody talks about when there's a problem in the country. What is Odinga saying? What is the Baba saying, right? He was the hope. He was there for peace, right? So honestly, I don't know what's going to happen. This is a big giant, a big giant that he was giving a lot of shade to many people, right? So we are confused, to be honest with you. We are in a very confusion moment.
What do you think will be remembered the most about him as Kenya's prime minister from that specific period of 2008 to 2013?
One thing that we can't forget, Raila Odinga has done many things, but as you know, Kenya, we have a lot of freedom. That was 2010 constitution. That he is the one who really fought for it. He is the father of that. As you see in Africa here, Kenya is kind of different. We have a stronger democracy compared to other nations. That was Raila Amolo Odinga who helped us. So 2010 constitution allow us to demonstrate, allow you to have a freedom. A lot of things were happening, right? And that's how we came up with many things. It was through him in the year for the 2010 constitution. So that one is a big mark. And before that, in the 1992 and the early 90s, Kenya was a one-party system, right? Odinga went to prison for almost 9 years to fight for multipartyism in Kenya. You see, so he has been seen as the father of democracy.
As the father of democracy, he ran 5 times unsuccessfully for the presidency. And in terms of how you view that he kept on going and trying 5 times, what does that speak into his leadership and what he was hoping to achieve through the role of presidency that he couldn't as prime minister?
Yes, if you can think about this 5 times running for doesn't really, and Odinga always on top, right? I think for the past 4 elections, he has been kind of on top there. Tells you that how many the Kenyans really believe in him, right? And that's why he has that hope of running and running. It was the Kenyan people. You can see already, Raila is gone. Look at the streets of Nairobi. Look how the country looks like, So he was a loved person, and people are the one who are pushing him to run. So there will be a big gap now that he's gone. We don't know who's going to fill the shoe, but it's a big, big gap. But I think at the same time, for young people, is to remember that Odinga fought for what he believes in, right? At this moment in the country, we still want to keep that spirit. What we can do for him now is to keep the spirit of fighting, spirit of fighting for the rights of the people, spirit of standing for the poor. Odinga was loved by people on the ground. As you can tell, most of the Kenyans, they really loved him, and they know that he fought for them.
The ODM, the Orange Democratic Movement Party, for which he was leader, how should this political party continue with Odinga's legacy as far as their manifestos are concerned?
It's really sad moment, really, even to talk about that now, as we are still going through this painful moment. But to be honest with you, a lot of things are going to happen. If you think about ODM, is one of the strongest party in Africa, as you know that. But at the same time, Baba was the father, right? He was the string that holds the party together. So there's a lot of uncertainty what's going to happen next without Baba, right? Will the party hold itself? We don't know. I also know Raila Amolo Odinga was also supporting the president, so we don't know if the party will continue doing that. So there's a lot of things going on now that we don't know, right? But I know he'll be happy to make sure to see the party standing strong, because the party is really what he fought for, and the party was really helped the Kenyan in 2010 constitution, right? So ODM is a very, very strong party. But now he was the captain. We don't know what happened. So it's a big thing that we are kind of trying to struggle with.
Earlier, thousands of mourners swarmed the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, even climbing onto planes. There was a lot of and overwhelming support that was being showed for Odinga. But unfortunately, there were some deaths and some injuries. In the aftermath of this chaos, how would you describe the atmosphere across Nairobi now, parts of Kenya, as people continue to mourn Odinga and his passing?
Yes. A lot of people, thousands of people went to the airport and at the stadium. Yes, and there was I think we lost almost 3 people because they could not control the crowd. People are really kind of sad and at the same time chaotic. Yeah? So the country is in a very mourning mode, right? And today I think there'll be a little bit of much. I hope today will be much order. Yesterday it was really shocking, right? Because this somebody who left the country. We were told that he was just not that sick, right? And then coming back in a coffin. So I think there's a lot of shock and people are confused, right? So I think now this is the second day. We think that there'll be a little bit of order, a little bit, because yesterday was a big shock for the country that people will be able now to really internalize this. So I look for that they'll give him some peaceful send-off and there'll be some order. I have that feeling today. I saw in the parliament there's a lot of the people are viewing the body and there's some order going on. So that's some good step for now.
From the press briefing that was held yesterday by Oburu Oginga, what stood out the most for you in that, and how the Kenyans resonated with a lot of what was said there?
No, I think Oburu now has 2 hats. One is he's the acting party leader, which is a very, very big position. At the same time, he is also the father of the Odinga family, right? He's the spokesperson there, right? And he's just asking the country to be calm. People give this brother, if they will love him, some really decent send-off. So I think Oburu's speech was also a way to calm the people down. Yes, which I think was important.
What do you think will be most important to note as far as the international community is concerned about the legacy of Raila Odinga and the aftermath then of his passing and how things have unfolded in the country?
If you remember 2008 and 2009, that election that happened whereby we had a post-election violence, Odinga was able to come up and the government of unity, right? Whereby he was able to work with Kibaki, who they argue that stole the election, rigged the election. So that is a man who really stood for the country over his own interest, right? And then I think we can forget about him is the new constitution that we have in Kenya, this 2010 constitution that we're having that we celebrate globally. I think that we remember Odinga for that.
Thank you so much. We're going to leave it there, Kennedy, Dr. Odede, and we appreciate your time. And again, our condolences go out to not just, the family of Raila Odinga, but the people of Kenya. And we imagine that more will be pouring in as well for the people of Kenya and also those who are in the diaspora and getting word from what they feel and how they are processing these shocking news.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's Dr. Kennedy Odede, who is a Kenyan social and community activist who worked with the late Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Africa, meet Abedi.
Yeah, that's me.
Abedi is a music lover through and through.
I really love African music.
He's got a taste for all kinds of tunes and spends his days listening to Channel Africa. Guess what? He didn't know.
Okay.
Channel Africa wants to help Abedi and all music lovers everywhere to discover even more incredible music. That is why Channel Africa is calling on all African musicians to submit their music. Musicians, remember to give us all your relevant information. Make your submissions at music@channelafrica.co.za. Submissions are your chance to be heard on radio. But sadly, they do not guarantee that you'll be playlisted. All submissions will be carefully reviewed to see if they meet our station's requirement. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Good morning starts here. Rise and shine on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
8:28 Central African Time. Today is the 17th of October. And taking a look back in history, significant things happened on this day. 1987, a coup d'etat. Yeah, not an uncommon thing on the continent, sadly, even happening today. Interestingly, though, this one was in Burkina Faso, and you know that there was a coup recently, again in Burkina Faso. A military coup led by Captain Blaise Compaoré overthrew the government of Burkina Faso. The coup resulted in the death of revolutionary president Thomas Sankara and his associates. Compaoré would go on to rule the country for 27 years. I wonder if that's going to play out in Madagascar. He says that he's going to stay in power just for 2 years, a transitional period. But one of the things that we've seen on the continent is a lot of these military-led coups, once these guys have tasted leading a country, they want to stay. We saw that with Yoweri Museveni, and he said, the problem with Africa is these people want to stay too long in power. And he said that right at the beginning. So there was hope. There was hope. And
but what doesn't have hope is Burkina Faso's national soccer team. They're not happy
that
they missed out on qualifying for the CAF World Cup playoffs. Despite having a strong qualifying campaign, the Stallions, even current President Ibrahim Traore was demanding an explanation for that one.
There was one year Nigeria didn't do well at the World Cups, and they were taken to a military barracks coming back from the World Cup finals. Yeah, it's 8:30 Central African time, which means it's time for your news headlines. Here's Jwalane Tulo Nwepe.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective. SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. At least 3 people have died in Kenya after police fired gunshots and tear gas in a stadium where crowds of mourners had gathered to see the body of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Madagascar's new military leader is to be sworn in later today, and Israeli officials say a Turkish team of rescue personnel with heavy equipment won't be allowed to enter Gaza to recover the bodies of the remaining dead hostages. I will have details on these and other stories at 9 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Let's now check in with the world of sports as we were talking about Burkina Faso's Stallions, the soccer team there. Yes, Vigile Lingwati with those details.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
I will start with football news. More than 1 million tickets have already been sold for next year's World Cup. That's the FIFA update on numbers since the official start of sales began earlier this month. The highest demand, as would have expected, were from buyers in the US, Canada and Mexico, the 3 nations that will play host to the tournament. FIFA said people from 212 different countries and territories have already purchased, even though only 28 of the 48 spots in the field have been filled. Rounding out the top 10 in terms of ticket purchase, the beginners are England, Germany, followed by Brazil, Spain and Colombia, Argentina and France. The tournament runs from the 11th of June through to the 19th of July. Rugby's greatest rivalry, an alternating quadrennial tour between South Africa and New Zealand, has been confirmed, marking a defining new chapter for the intense rivalry between the sport's most successful and storied nations. In the tour's maiden year, South Africa will host New Zealand in August and September 2026. The All Blacks kick off their tour against the Stormers in Cape Town on the 7th of August and takes on the Sharks, Bulls and Lions to complement a 4-test series against the Springboks. Ellis Park in Johannesburg, DHL Stadium in Cape Town, and FNB Stadium in Johannesburg are confirmed as South African test venues, preceding a landmark 4th test hosted at the neutral international venues. Some more rugby news. South Africa's Free State Province comes alive once again as the 5th annual Toyota Challenge kicks off this evening in Bloemfontein. The Toyota Cheetahs face Georgia's Black Lion in what promises to be an exciting test of power and preparation. Head coach of Georgia, of Toyota of rugby's Free State side, Franz Stein, says there is still work to be done before the team hits top form.
Yeah, I think we're not looking too far ahead. I know we've got the EPCR coming up, but there's little things we need to fix as a team and to be better at. So hopefully we can fix some of the small things we didn't do as well and get some emphasis on small areas of our game and improve every week.
Georgia's Black Lion coach Richard Cockerell says the invitation marks an important milestone for Georgian rugby.
Yeah, very happy to be here. Really honoured to get invited to Toyota Challenge. First time for the Black Lions to be here against a good Cheetahs team. It'll give us great experience. We've got a young side. Some of our players, this will be the hardest level they've ever played. So good to get ourselves out of Georgia and to play some proper opposition and to learn from the experience.
And finally, golf news. Lesotho's biggest international golfing event, the Mohogare Golf Classic, is set to take center stage this weekend. Starting today and running through Saturday, the Nedbank Lesotho-sponsored tournament will be held simultaneously at Maseru Golf Course in Lesotho and Lady Brand Golf Course in South Africa. The event will conclude with a prize-giving ceremony at Avani Lesotho Hotel. Established in 2003, this annual tournament is widely regarded as a premier golf event in the country and remains unmatched in promoting tourism. It consistently attracts participants from neighboring countries, including South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Eswatini, Mozambique, and even beyond Africa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Hi there. Do you want to elevate your business and give it a voice in South Africa and Africa as a whole? Well, in that case, let Channel Africa make this a possibility. Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mukwena@SABC. That's MOKOENATA@SABC. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Right, let's get a final business news update right here on Rise and Shine this morning. And it's Wintle Headbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Peter. Good morning. In our top business story this hour, Morocco's finance minister, Nadia Feta Alawi, says Morocco will adjust its upcoming budget to prioritize spending on health and education, as well as allocate some additional funds to reduce regional inequalities. Youth-led protests have spread across the kingdom in recent weeks, revealing anger over poverty and public services, Alawi says. The youth have expressed their desire for better education and health through these protests. She says the government spends just under 9% of GDP on these two areas and that they'll reallocate for quick wins and reprioritize projects such as getting local hospitals up and running in this budget. Egypt has raised prices on a wide range of fuel products today, marking the second increase this year. The country's petroleum ministry says this is in line with government policies to reduce subsidies and ease a budget deficit. The increases of 10.5% to 12.9% on a wide range of petroleum products follows a hike of nearly 15% in April. The ministry says government will freeze domestic fuel prices for at least a year after today's rise, citing local, regional and global developments. The South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, NECSA, has posted another year of profitability, recording a net profit after tax of $7 million for the year ended 31st March 2025. NECSA CEO Loyiso Tyabashe says the results reflect the commitment of employees and effective oversight from the shareholder ministry, among other bodies. The company, responsible for running a nuclear reactor for isotope production purposes, also achieved a clean audit opinion. Tyabashe elaborates.
We want to look into a pilot reactor on our site wherein we could produce heat and even electricity, and which we could deploy, and maybe the likes of Eskom or any other company could buy and adopt in repurposing their coal plants into the future.
The Sixth Payments Association of South Africa International Payment Conference has placed a spotlight on the urgent need to leverage technology to reduce South Africa's reliance on cash and accelerate financial inclusion. The conference, underway in Johannesburg, comes amid major pending changes to the national payment system recently announced by the South African Reserve Bank. Professor Adrian Seville from the Gordon Institute of Business Science in South Africa formed part of the panelists.
The importance of financial literacy. All well and good to talk about bank accounts, but if people are financially illiterate but have bank accounts, that can hardly be, what financial inclusion is about. And then in a country that can build an increasingly elevated savings platform.
The price of gold has risen to a new high, above $4,300 an ounce this morning, to $4,364 an ounce, up $131 from yesterday morning's price of $4,233 per ounce. Analysts say the metal is poised for its best week in 5 years as signs of weakness in U.S. regional banks, global trade frictions, and expectations of more rate cuts sent investors flocking to the safe haven. They've hedged their bets on the yellow metal reaching the $5,000 mark soon, with expectations that a short-term correction is likely to shake out weaker hands and attract a fresh dip of buyers. And now for a look at the markets. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,465 naira this morning. In Botswana, it's at 13.25. Kenya at 128 shilling and 25. And in Zambia, it's 22 kwacha 60. Moving to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 rial 44. In Russia, it's trading at 79 rubles 58. India, 87 rupees 89. In China, it's trading at 7 yuan 12. And South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 32 cents this morning. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold, as mentioned earlier, is at $4,364 per ounce this morning. Platinum also higher at $1,718 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $60.88 a barrel. And those are our business news. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Hitbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. The rhythm of Africa. The pulse of the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Screen. Well, it's 8:41 Central African time, and it's time now for us to take a look at what's been happening in Madagascar. We know that the new military leader is going to be sworn in later today. Former president of Malawi and a member of the SADC panel of elders will be leading a mission to Madagascar as well. Military leader Colonel Michael Randrianirina is set to be sworn in, as I said, as Madagascar's transitional president today. Meanwhile, the African Union has suspended the country following a coup to remove President André Rajoelina. For some analysis on these developments, we're now joined by political analyst Dr. Beki Mngomezulu. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning to your listeners, and thank you for having me.
I'm not quite sure where to start with this because there's so many moving parts. Perhaps let's start with Joyce Banda, former Malawi president, who's been sent by SADC to go to Madagascar on a fact-finding mission to find out what the underlying issues are. I wonder why SADC, African Union maybe, have been quite quick in trying to deal with this situation where other coups, they really did very little?
Peter, you are asking a very pertinent question. It's pertinent on two fronts. On the one hand, we recall what happened in the DRC when Laurent Kabila took over. The AU was nowhere to be found. And at the time when they were trying to organize forces, it was more of reacting to a situation that had already occurred. And in this case, there are two things. One, we can commend our leaders for acting promptly by sending this mission led by former President Joyce Banda, which should be commended. But at the same time, I would raise concerns because we have known for some time now that there was commotion in Madagascar. Why didn't they go there to try and contain the situation before it got to where it is right now? So it's two sides to it. So on the one hand, we commend SADC for acting promptly, but on the other hand, we still have those concerns. But to answer your question directly, Peter, I think that SADC is now being aware of the criticisms that have been leveled against the body for acting very late, like they did, for example, in Libya. When they were supposed to act, they were just spectators watching things happening until NATO took over what was happening. So basically, there are positive things, but there are also negative things. So in terms of them reacting fast in this case, one would say that they are responding to the criticisms leveled against the body, and they are now doing things differently.
How much do we know about this military leader, Randrian Nirina, who's taking over? I mean, he was instrumental in getting Rajoelina installed in the coup that happened 2009, I think it was. And then 2023, he was accused of being part of a plot for another coup attempt. So he's always been in the thick of things in terms of these unconstitutional moves. Can we take him at his word that he'll only stay 2 years?
Yeah, no, the reason why I'm laughing, Peter, is because he appears to be a coup specialist because in each and every coup or attempted coup, he is implicated, either directly or indirectly, but he's implicated. So it means that he has the know-how of how to stage a coup. Because, in fact, as you correctly pointed out, the now ousted leader got into this position because of his assistance. So it means he knows how to do it. But then seemingly, he is of the view that having deployed the other leader and having seen him fail to deliver on his mandate, he has now decided to take things in his own hands. Whether he will succeed or not, then we don't know. As for your main question about him being trusted that he's going to hand over to civilian rule, we'll just wait and see. Because in the earlier case that I cited in the DRC, Laurent Kabila had promised that he was going to return the leadership to civilian rule within 2 years. When then he kept on postponing, of course, that cost him dearly because they had to then kill him. So in this case, I would think that maybe we can give him the benefit of the doubt and hope that he's going to draw lessons from the DRC case and maybe try everything possible to stick to his words and then hand over to civilian rule within a set time, as opposed to postponing it.
Dr. Mgomezulu, always good to talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for your thoughts on these developments.
Thank you very much, Peter. Let's hope for the best and hope that we'll not have another coup before this one dies down. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed. That's Dr. Begi Mgomezulu, a political analyst, unpacking the situation in Madagascar, saying that SADC and the AU moving very quickly this time around. We'll have to wait and see if they can actually achieve anything. Madagascar has now officially been, their membership of the AU has been terminated as a result of that coup. We'll keep up to date with the story.
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge.
It's that time on a Friday on Rise and Shine where we catch up with what's been happening in the world of the arts, the entertainment and lifestyle worlds. And our reporter, Channel Africa's Nhlanhla Mahlangu, brings us up to speed. This is called Arty Beats. Let's take a listen.
Welcome to this week's African RG Beats exclusive to Channel Africa, The African Perspective. I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu. In this week's segment, Meta hosts its inaugural creator event in Johannesburg, and South Africa's first powered WhatsApp-based mentorship platform launched. South Africa's top content creators and media professionals gathered in Sandton last Friday for the inaugural Meta Creator Bride 2025. The parent company of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp and Threads showcased its AI-driven tools and monetization features designed to help local creators produce content faster, engage audiences more deeply, and turn their platforms into sustainable businesses. The event brought together more than 200 content creators. Kezia Anim-Ado, Communications Director for Africa, Middle East and Turkey at Meta, says the event builds on Meta's creator initiatives across sub-Saharan Africa, including recent events in Nigeria and Ghana.
This event really is about celebrating creators in South Africa. Like, Africa has amazing talent. I will always say that. I'm African, but I will always say that. And also here in South Africa as well. So this event is really about bringing people together, connecting people, but also a chance for them to learn about the tools that they can use from Meta, whether it's WhatsApp, Instagram or Facebook, that they can build a business on, so monetize, but then also other tools as well that they can use, such as Meta AI, to make their lives easier to engage with their audiences. So this is about celebrating, it's about networking, but it's also about enabling creators and giving them the right tools for them to kind of go on and do the work that they do.
What sort of opportunities does one derive from being on your platforms?
Look, the opportunities are endless, right? So in Africa, we've got huge numbers of SMBs, so small, medium businesses. Here in South Africa, in Nigeria, all over the continent, that solely use social media like Facebook, Instagram to sell their products. You know, we also see not just being able to sell to people in the country, but actually cross-border. So that's, I think, one of the beautiful things is that social media opens you up to an audience, not just in your town or your region or your country, but globally. So we have, you know, SMBs here in South Africa who are selling their products in places like Ethiopia, in Ghana, even as far as in Sweden, in the US. So it's really about kind of opening the eyes and essentially like a borderless society that we live in. The same for creators. You know, we have creators here who have huge audiences in India. And if it wasn't for social media, they wouldn't have that exposure. So I think that's what social media enables. And like platforms like Facebook and Instagram, that's what it enables it to do as well. It provides an audience that you never necessarily would have had.
Which other countries have you done this in?
So we do it all over Africa. So we've held events in Ghana like this. We've held events in Nigeria. We've held events in Kenya with creators. So it's very much what we do. We're very much involved and invested in the creator ecosystem. So we have been doing these over a number of years. This isn't the first year we've been doing these kind of things and engagements.
This week saw the inaugural South Africa's first artificial intelligence-powered WhatsApp-based mentorship platform. Next Levels is designed to inspire, educate, and elevate the next generation of young creatives. Through WhatsApp, users can interact directly with Next Levels bot, receiving guided prompts, create challenges, and branding insights inspired by Vusi Bob the Stylist Ndima from fashion brand Boys of Soweto's own mentorship approach. He says through the app, mentorship and creativity connect in a digital-first world.
What I like with collaboration is that when you collaborate, you're going to introduce something new and it's going to fall to another crowd, so you're going to be exposed to another crowd as well. So it's a trade, right, from that level. But a collaboration is important because collaborating with a brand affords you the capacity to do what you've always wanted to do, right? This campaign in its entirety, it's about uplifting, giving skills, giving exposure. That's what it's doing, right? That's what it's going to do. And the Boys of Soweto stems from that, right? We've got an initiative called Boys Today, Men Tomorrow, which is essentially about that. So collaborations are important, but they have to be aligned with your vision.
And mentorship, how much of a role does it play in helping somebody get to the next level?
It really depends on the mentee and the person that wants to be mentored. Right? Mentorship is essential, but those who want to be mentored, they need to have a different mindset where it's about what is that I to offer. You standing even chances of being employed in that space because you now have something, right, that maybe this person doesn't have. But if you're expecting, yes, you'll be given, right, but you are actually limiting yourself. So offer your right now, if you're going to be interning in the fashion industry, offer your intelligence, offer your ideas, share your ideas. That's all I'm saying. Share your ideas and don't hog them to yourself, right? Because if it bites, the person will come again. Now you're adding value. Now you are employable because there's something that they don't have. They need to, mentees or people that are being mentored, they need to have that perception. Don't go there and expecting to be given, but give them what you have. Because some ideas, you can't run away from ideas, right? I mean, you can't run out of ideas if you're creative. But give, all for yourself. Be of service. That's how they should see mentorship.
And South African brands continue to get global recognition, showcasing at major fashion events. What are you up to as Boys of Soweto? What can we look forward to?
Just consistency. Look forward to that consistency. We'll forever be putting work, and yes, you are going to see us in shows internationally. The last show that we did was in Moscow, right? So there are plans on doing other shows, but one thing that you just need to expect from us is consistency.
That's it from this week's African RT Beats. Until next Friday for Channel Africa, I am Tandla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-watersan-dialogue.org or follow at AUSISA on social media. AUSISA, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
Coming up after Rise and Shine is On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin, who's also going to be on the move traveling the continent sometime next week. But today, that's not what we're talking about.
No, not
But
today.
you'll tell us more about it next week.
We'll see. All right, so we're going to start on a storytelling load. So I'm not going to tell you my story, but we are telling stories on the Move in the first hour. Looking at a conference actually that's coming up, Afro Talers Conference, which is a great one. It's returning for another year and it will be taking place from the 23rd to the 25th. It's going to be beautiful because, you know, African people known for their storytelling. So all kinds of storytellers in one place, speaking about how we can continue telling our stories quite authentically.
Wow. Is Mum Rina Mhlophe going to be there? Because she's
I don't know, but she's an incredible storyteller. Yeah, I would hope so. And then we move on to speak about a great event called Kids Love Jazz.
Wow.
And it seems like more younger audiences are really getting into the jazz scene, and it's beautiful to see. And this young guy, Vuyo McGlad, founded this particular event after noticing that young people are actually really participating in the jazz scene. So we're going to speak about that, and then we're going to continue on that jazzy note in our final hour. For our artist profile today, speaking to Mark, whose music, Mark is a jazz musician, Mark Fransman, that's his name. Okay. Mark Fransman, South African jazz pianist, composer and educator.
Sounds fascinating.
Very interesting. I wonder on which capacity these kids are getting involved in the jazz
do you
space.
know what's happened with
jazz? Do they actually compose the music from scratch?
They do.
Yeah.
There's so many.
A lot of them doing that.
I'll tell you, I have so many favorite young jazz artists right now that I can tell you they certainly are composing and making the music, as
so
well as on the
refreshing.
other side enjoying the
quite
music
refreshing
too.
to know.
But also that jazz has evolved over time as well. I mean, the old jazz classics, it doesn't sound like that much anymore.
Yeah.
And you had the Earl Clues and the George Bensons that really modernized it over time. And then South Africa had a South African flavor to the jazz. And I suspect that the young people are infusing their own sound into it as well.
Absolutely.
We're probably going to hear Amapiano jazz soon.
Oh, you mustn't do that.
No.
You must leave it alone.
Not right now. Not right now.
Hey, show your resistance. Okay, so that's a packed show to look forward to, and I think it's going to be quite exciting. You have to tell us about your trip. Where are you planning to go to?
You know what? I feel like I don't want to give the clue yet because, you know, sometimes it's very important not to be, you know, like blind, not to be blind to what's going on.
Telling us where it is somewhere that most people wouldn't think to go.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and that's the beautiful thing about it.
And it's on the continent.
And
we're keeping it Channel African even when we travel.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm really curious. Next week, we're going to try and pry it out of.
We'll see. I'm very good at secrets. I'm really good at secrets.
You'll tell us when you're back.
Perhaps.
And we'll be back on Monday. But for now, we say goodbye as Rise and Shine. And thanks for joining us. My name is Asanda Beda.
And I'm Peter Ndoro. Thank you so much indeed for an awesome week and interesting week across the continent. But Monday, we do it all again bright and early, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So go tell a friend, a relative, anyone who's not tuned in, www.channelafrica.co.za. That's where you can find us. Also on social media, just look for Channel Africa. Great shows throughout the 24 hours of each day. It's 9 o'clock. Here's your news with Jwalani Tulongwe.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. SABC News.